Okay, guys, thanks for tuning in to a very lately announced broadcast of my friend Ultimate Delicious Pie and myself. We're going to be rambling on about our favorite topic as usual. He has a lot of creative things to say. I think he's busy getting a drink, hopefully just water. So he's not going to be rambling on incoherently like we tend to do, or at least not as much as we tend to do. And just to keep up to speed, I'm happily doing all the wonders of plot analysis. I did actually find some plot, so it is there. I'm happy to talk about it. It's great. And there were a lot of news happening with BioWare in the past few weeks. The biggest thing was it was about a 4-day, 5-day spread about 2-3 weeks ago, and this was first started by the article by Jason Schreier, where he talked about. This is the second article he did about BioWare, of how the Montreal studio was being cut down, and there was no one working on future DLC. And that's essentially killing all the hopes for any paid or free DLC that fans wanted, the Quarian DLC, the possible other mysteries of the story, like the Benefactor or the Jardin, which I don't even know what that is yet. I just read about it. And then BioWare came back on Twitter saying, hey, we don't know what you're talking about. Sinclair Networks, we've never worked with them. They're not even a company. They're just some disgruntled fanboys who created them on Facebook, and everyone thought they were real at the time. But they never confirmed nor denied that they were making any DLC. So it's kind of like, oh, well, Jason Schreier is our foot in, or our secret person inside the world of BioWare, and they're not arguing that. So it's like, okay, well, I guess you guys aren't doing anything. And there's been no announcements, and all you've been doing is updates, which end up just killing more facial animations as opposed to fixing them, which is kind of hilarious. So hopefully we'll get some wonderful stories from Ultimate Delicious Pie and his creative mind, and what he has to say about the state of Andromeda and BioWare in general.
Are we doing this, really?
Well, we don't have to. I mean, it's kind of funny to talk about because I was about to make a video a few weeks ago. I said, you know what? It's just going to do its thing. Let me just get on with my life and do my own thing. And then Hudson came back, and I'm thinking, what the hell is going on?
Right.
What
it's like
are
a
these
clown service.
Yeah, it's like Sinclair Networks doesn't exist. Ha ha ha. Well, are you making the DLC? We're not going to tell you. And then Aaron quits mysteriously for absolutely no reason. And then Hudson gets miraculously returning from Microsoft because I guess his cushy job being in charge of, was it Microsoft Connect? I can't remember exactly what he was doing, VR or something.
Yeah, I think it was something like that.
Yeah, and boom, it's gone. So, yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. Anthem does not impress me at all. I don't know why. It's the most generic safe thing I've ever seen. I can only imagine how bad the net code and connectivity and all the peer-to-peer networking things are going to be doing is just. And then Destiny 2 I think just came out, and it's been doing rather well. So they have to wait another year and a bit if there's no delays.
They pushed it back, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. So Destiny 2 is going to be the number one, what do you call that genre? The
looter shooter, I'd class it as.
Looter shooter? Yeah, that's pretty close. Yeah, it's pretty much just running around, shooting things randomly, finding crap, and then returning a base. That's pretty much the whole game right there.
Yeah, it's like Borderlands, but with a more serious story. It's less tongue-in-cheek, pretty much.
Yeah, but then you have to imagine what the theme is. Like, how Fallout has a theme, Borderlands has a theme. Like, there's all this vibe. I did not get a real clear vibe from. I was actually confused what Anthem was going to be because it seems serious with all these first-person, animations and talking to the person. Oh, we need you to do this. There's quests, and all of a sudden it comes to third-person action, and there's people chatting to you, and they're all just actors paid to act like they're players. And I'm like, okay, so it's not serious. Is it a joke? Is it fun times? You put your controller down, and you go get a pizza, and you come back, and it's still there. Like what is this game? I have no idea. So
I'd actually called the Anthem demo a tech demo because it's very too similar to the one of the Division when they had the one in 2013 where it was deliberately scripted in a way to basically showcase off what the engine is capable of doing, not what they're going to add in, what they could add in, and that's what they're doing with that's what I believe they're doing with Anthem. You know, the base, it's all too scripted and a bit too clinical of how they're doing things, like the minute how the players, there's no random movements of what a normal player would do. You know, a player would normally make mistakes, they bump into things and whatnot, like that first bit where you walk to your exosuit or whatever it is, your javelin, I think they called it.
Yeah,
that's
very
pre-rendered. That's very pre-rendered up the backside. You know, no player would ever move like that. It's just like, why would you ever do that? It's like, oh, this looks amazing, the graphics. It don't care whether it's done in engine, it's still pre-rendered. So I'm not sure what they're doing. It's
well, this apparently was Casey's baby, and either they've run into a huge problem and they need Casey to come in and give them some creative direction, which I don't think is the case. I mean, it seemed pretty for a a high-end demo or visual demo. It looked fine, as all the other visual demos at an E3 conference would look like. So yeah, there's going to be a downgrade for sure, and who knows what platform it's going to be compatible with properly, graphically at least, in the future. So yeah, I have no idea what Anthem is going to be. My interest is kind of like, oh look, it's a souped up version of Andromeda, which is like, okay, not the best praise to give it. Although we will have to say that Andromeda action and combat was its saving grace. So that's still something. That's still something to say, you know what, they can make a game with the gaming parts. Well, but then you have Casey Hudson, who's like, oh, this is too video gamey. I don't like the shooting aspect. There's too much flying. You know, it has to come down to earth. It's like, okay, well, maybe this isn't the best cooperation between director and developer. Who knows?
This is what I find funny about Casey, right? Is that I'm going to make this project called Dylan. 2 months later, Casey Hudson leaves. Wait, what? This is your brand new project. You want to be working so hard on, and then he just leaves. It's like, all right, okay. So who's taking over this project then for the next couple of years, guys?
And the whole event surrounding his leaving is kind of in mystery. I mean, what was he offered? Why did he leave? And then his return is like Aaron. Like if you read both the blog post, Aaron's pretty much, I was skeptical about leaving or whatever, but now that Casey's coming back, I feel very confident. It's like, what does that have to do with you leaving? Like, yeah, another guy is going to replace you because you want to leave. Why is that? Is it because EA said, Aaron, we don't like your direction. We want someone to come back, and please find someone. Here's a big severance package. Is it, Aaron, you're fired, but we're not going to tell everyone that. We want it to be like underboard and keep everyone positive, and BioWare is great and we love BioWare and yada yada. Like what's the story behind all that? It feels very awkward, and I mean, we haven't heard anything from Casey about. Obviously, he was under NDA at the time. That NDA still persists, even if you're no longer with the company. You sign that contract. You say, I'm not going to talk about it until whatever, for legal reasons, of course. So we haven't heard anything from him. We haven't heard any posts about it. What's so special about Anthem? Why is it so great? I mean, this is coming from BioWare, who had another very similar game. It wasn't about flying around in some alien planet with mech suits. It was about running around in dungeons and having X-Men-like abilities. And that entire project got canned. That was a few years ago. That was the whole, I'm trying to remember the name. It was so forgettable. But I do remember the full motion video advertisements they made with bizarre actors and having mutant powers. And it was just like, this guy has fire. This guy's sitting at a diner. It's just like, what is this, a game? Are you telling me a story? Like what is going on? It's a big mystery. So that they put a lot of marketing into that, and it ended up getting canned. So now they've probably learned their lesson. Now they have zero marketing. They just showed off at a trade show, and then it's like, yeah, we're doing Anthem. Oh, this is your best looking demo yet, or video or visual FMV, or not FMV, your best game I'm trying to not call it a demo, but what else can I call this thing? It's just a bunch of people talking. Yeah, it's a presentation. A bunch of people talking. It looks like they're not even playing the game. They're just using their voiceover over scenes, and it just ends. Everyone rushes off into a lightning storm, and you're like, okay, great.
Speaking of which, actually, BioWare also got the rights to Command and Conquer as well. Generals 2 specifically.
Only one name, only Generals 2. Is that the only thing they've got the rights to, not the actual franchise?
I don't actually. It depends if EA, because EA obviously holds the rights to Command and Conquer itself. So if they ship it out to BioWare, but that was a game that got into an alpha stage because there's actually some footage on YouTube of it. It looks all right, but then they got binned pretty much, and yeah. Because the thing is, though, is that BioWare was actually, if I remember rightly, this was actually a time when BioWare was actually not just Montreal, Edmonton, and Texas. Actually, you had the people from like EA Mythic as well that were actually combined into BioWare for a short period of time before they got dissolved. So there's a lot of little mini studios that were, to quote, officially part of BioWare, then quickly put under the rug, basically just cut off. Because it was kind of bringing down the BioWare name.
Yeah, I can't have that happen. Yeah.
Right? It's like 2012. Right, guys, nothing bad can happen anymore now.
Oh, boy. Well, hey, we got to give credit where credit is due. And, Casey is a creative guy. He's a technical guy. He has a vision. So this can only be a good thing. If Mass Effect 3 was the worst part of the BioWare experience, and Andromeda was the most mediocre, worst game of BioWare, unless they royally screw things up with Dragon Age, which Casey has nothing to do. I think Dragon Age should be relatively better than Inquisition. People liked Inquisition. It sold well. It's probably going to be another safe bet. And having Casey on as director is not a bad idea. It's just a strange one. It's an awkward one. And we're just sort of like, oh, this could be very, very good or just absolute catastrophe. So, in terms of the analysis, I'm actually doing it right now, and I was interrupted by my fellow broadcaster here. So I'm kind of curious what he has to say, because he was talking a lot all last. I have this great idea. I'm like, okay, great. What is it? I got to write it down. Like, okay, write it down. It's like, what did you think of it? Like, oh, I don't know. I was just thinking about stuff. Like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, the actual thought process for me, it was just basically me walking the dog one day. I was just like, hang on a minute. And then I talked to you about it, and you were like, write that bloody thing down. I was like, all right, I gotta get a notepad, and just sort of see how it went there. Then I posted some ideas to you, some like general, like very vague. I don't want to get into too much details about it. And you were intrigued by it. You did the Vulcan eyebrow on it,
Yeah, it permeates through the screen. You could just tell whenever I have an interesting or fascinating idea hit my brain.
It's like, go up, proceed. Yeah. Do we talk about the idea? What did I call it now? Was it the skeletal structure of a story?
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Right. The idea is that it was trying to resolve like the problems of Andromeda in the sense of like you have to deal with the premise and obviously the backstory that comes to support that, and obviously and this is where most of the time anyway, like I was walking the dog, and for the most part anyway, I was trying to make sure that the dog wasn't rolling and stuff, because there's lots of wild animals around and she loves to roll and poo and things like that. But I was just kind of thinking about it while walking around the fields, and it just kind of clinked up with me in the sense of how do you do these stories once you start off with the premise, the backstory to the premise, and then you build it up, and then you give the reasons why your character's in there. You can't just be, oh yeah, I'm the son of such and such, because that's not really an excuse. That's just being there for the sake of being there. You don't really feel important, So I've got it written down here. Actually, Christ, that's big. I've just realized. There we go. Shall I start with the premise about the whole reasons why and all that kind of stuff?
That's probably the premise is the most important. I mean, if you don't have a good premise, I mean, your whole project is going to be, or your whole story is going to be a kind of a question as to why it's being written.
Yeah, like I say, like I'm not going to say this is the best idea ever, but it was one of the best ideas I could have at the time, really, which is saying something.
While you're walking your dog, trying to not get rolled up in other dog poop. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's basically it. But the general idea was that I start off as a couple of 100 years ago in the past, and it starts off with basically like an Asari Spectre who was kind of getting in reports of, this is the idea of the galactic genocide happening, but no one could really sort of figure out what was going to cause it. They just kind of come along the idea of something happens to a civilization that once you reach a certain point, it gets wiped out. Now, this is long before the idea of reapers or anything like that came into existence, so that's long before. So what this Spectre kind of did was make a think tank of, we're not going to try and stop the calamity from happening, but we're going to make a contingency plan of a group of people who are going to go, right, let's see if we try and weather this storm in some kind of way. So it's going to be mostly like R&D projects and, trying to understand, trying to make things better, make things last longer. So it's a preservation of civilization for an extended period of time. And that was where the idea really kind of got conceived from. Like, it was just a bunch of scientists and, bunch of people randomly talking. And that's where the initiative actually began a couple of 100 years ago. And obviously as information grew about, not too sure about whether the Protheans actually made the mass relays, because you could sort of say that they were finding evidence of civilizations before that, but nothing's really conclusive. So these are kind of like the worst case, the people who are doing this are the worst case scenario people. And I'm going with this. So yeah, so basically they're going along lines of basically, what I said now, it was extended technologies. Yeah, like, things like what would happen if they would have to terraform planets because they're so dependent on the mass relays. It's like, what if, let's say, they lost connection to the relay system as a possible theory, and they have to like terraform a planet? What would be the implications and the technologies needed to develop such technologies? And obviously you got cryostasis, because obviously if you want to keep people alive for extended periods of time, you have to invest into these kind of things.
That sounds very reminiscent of what happened with the Protheans in Mass Effect 1, where we go to Ilos, and this supposed Spectre would go to Ilos and say, oh, wow, look at all this technology for preservation, for cryo and putting people to sleep. We can use this. And that accelerates the program a little further. They get new technology from Mass Effect 2 or whatever else they discover from the collector base, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Like it would neatly connect with this ongoing project that has been in the works for a while. And just slowly building up and going fast. And all of a sudden, you get to Mass Effect 3, or I guess if you want to put it at the end of Mass Effect 2, they have just the right components. Kind of like launching your science solution at the end of Civilization, where you go off to Alpha Centauri. You have just the right amount of components. And you don't have all the components, but you have just enough to launch. And right when the start of Mass Effect 3 comes, you're like, oh, shit. They're here.
Actually, yeah, because the reason how to, obviously, the only really kind of can see it is if, let's say, we had to go to Andromeda. That's the general thing that I'm working with here. I'm not working with anything else. But this was an old idea I actually said in a couple of videos ago, where, using a modified mass relay to basically turn it into a big giant space gun.
Right, okay.
So basically the idea is that one of my original ideas, I'm kind of like toying with the idea, but either way, it's a mass relay that's kind of been disconnected from the network itself. But it's basically, it's been like whoever did it before managed to hotwire it in a sense of, so they can fire you off to a point, but without needing a sister relay. You're just not making the instantaneous travel. You're just going at really ridiculous velocities, pretty much. So you basically, they haven't made a mass relay. They've fooled a mass relay into launching you, pretty much. So it's kind of like a bit of a hodgepodge kind of patch workaround.
which they've done even in a more complicated way in Andromeda, trying to explain away the data they get from Andromeda by the Geth magically connecting three quantum locked mass. I don't know how they moved three of those things together, let alone used it properly.
Well, that's the whole thing I don't understand about that. It's like they have to go through the relay that they have to pick up, then they have to drag it back, which means they're at regular FTL speed, which would take hundreds of years. It doesn't add up, right? So it's like, right, we need to pick this thing up. Oh, right, it's over there. But how do we get into? Oh shit. But anyway, the idea that I'm using that one is because there's no information that they can actually get to Andromeda. They just know that the relay is actually pointing to Andromeda. You know, as a kind of whoever did this maybe as an act of desperation. Really, it's like we need to go somewhere, pick a place. It's there, kind of thing, and that's a bit weak. But anyway, I was thinking of that they ended up sending. The reason why I sort of set this like a couple of hundred years in the past is because they would actually be sending out a series of automated probes, so that while they wouldn't gain any information right now, in a couple of hundred years there would be buoys in between the galaxy that would then receive information bit by bit. So you kind of send it like this little lifeline. And then you send out further probes, which then be automated and self-sufficient, and they would be self-replicating. And then they would then scatter out amongst the Andromeda galaxy, giving you telemetry. So when any person or Pathfinder actually would then arrive into Andromeda, they would be flooded with this wealth of telemetry when they actually arrive. So it's like, okay, we're not going in blind. When we arrive, it's just Google Maps updates a little bit better.
And you would need, and a Pathfinder would have to need some sort of special data module or some sort of connection to interpret this information, as opposed to having a normal computer, so that you can actually understand it, you can interpret it, and it would be something on a biological level that would require the title of like you would have to be this sort of special character to do this.
Actually, this is what I mean by, in the sense of, you are a special character, but you're not special in the sense of that you are kind of augmented, but in a slightly different way. But that's another point. But I was thinking that the initiative does it in stages, right? Is that you basically you go through your probing stage, whereby you send out all these probes, and they would try and map things out for you and find the best possible locations, not just for resources and habitable planets and other things like that. But then your second stage is your Pathfinder teams to actually make sure that the locations are actually safe, and then while they make things secure, make the initial landing sites and the safe pathway, then the colonists come tailgating after you. So you have an exploratory fleet, and then you have the colony fleet. So it's kind of like things are done in stages. But obviously with the events of Mass Effect, you could sort of say that, you know, things are kind of bum rushed a little bit out, especially with the threat of the Reapers kind of looming around the corner. So which is no problem as well. Technology is going to be failing. There's going to be failures in technology. So there's going to be a time limit, you know? So there's a time limit of how long they can actually last, because, you know, that's the big problem about Andromeda itself. The game Andromeda itself is that they go for 600 years and nothing breaks.
Yeah, like, it's kind of weird. I mean, yeah, you're talking about cutting edge technology that hasn't been tested, that is designed, like at least the drive core is designed to work at long times and long distances. But what about every other thing on the ship? What about filters for air, or not air? Any other kinds of necessities to keep the engine going, to keep electronics going, to replace electronics, to fix electronics, to like you'd have to have automation. You'd have to have someone either still on board the ship. And that would have been fascinating to have maintenance crews, like the Asari. Like that would make, okay, we have an Asari. They're willing to make the trip. They work in 100 years at a time, and then once their shift is over, they give it to the next one or whatever. And they would make sure all the systems are up, all the people are alive, and all that's just to keep things going. And to have like a not an infinite resource, because the engine makes electricity, which is good. But to have some sort of process where they can build things from whatever, like a recycling process, like I think you mentioned the idea of having like this big raw asteroid that they could just siphon off resources and start building new materials if they needed to. That would have been a lot more practical. And you see it as the time goes by, the asteroid gets smaller and smaller as it keeps going. That would have at least made some technical hard science storytelling of, oh, okay, yeah, they're actually thinking of this thing as a process, not as a one-time thing. That would have really helped the believability of the complex, because this is a massively complicated undertaking. This is ridiculously over the top. So for anyone to have to do this, you would have to be or to go along with this and be as naive as you are. You'd have to be extremely naive, or it would be like, okay, it's my dad, I have to go with my dad because it's family and he knows better and it's my dad and whatever, which is kind of sort of the excuse that Scott and Sarah have when you actually talk to Cora. I'm in this in my plot analysis where Scott is talking to Cora, and Cora asks, well, why did you go? And he's like, well, my dad's career collapsed. The AI research made him kind of toxic to the rest of the community. I wanted to forge my own horizons. And I'm thinking, well, look, all this is pretty stupid because you can forge your own horizons in a grocery store, bagging food. I mean, that's whatever you want to do, you can do it. Why does it have to be Andromeda? Like, there's no reason why it's Andromeda, but because it's his dad. And then he says, and to give Sarah a shot at making the discovery of a lifetime. I'm thinking, okay, you know what? That's not the best reasoning, but there's enough reasons in that to say it's about family, it's about my dad, it's about my sister. I want my sister to discover things. I also want to have some excitement. So that's the sort of mentality. There's only two major mentalities that would do this sort of thing, and that sort of fits just enough to explain, at least to me, I'm sure a lot of people didn't like it, why the writers, at least just the writers, not everyone else, not the 100,000 other people, just the writers, why they're going. I'm like, okay, fine, I could buy that. But yeah, to get there, I mean, that the motivation for an individual, if they did not have the technical understanding, like this was a quote by I'm trying to remember the name of my most famous Canadian astronaut. He's still alive today. Chris Hadfield. He was saying, if you want to become an astronaut, you want to go into space, what you want to do is you want to talk to the engineers and you want to know every single bit of technical relevant data of what it takes to get to wherever you're going. All the contingency plans, all the technology, how it works, how it breaks, how you fix it. You have to, like this is just common sense stuff. And he's just laying it out, like, how does the spacesuit work? How do the space boots work? How does the tether work? That's just the suit. Then he's like, how does the spaceship work? How does the shuttle work? How much pounds of thrust? Like all these little things that an average person would have to know, even in the far distant future where they've conquered space travel. That sort of information, that level of detail, is necessary to build a foundation for this fantastical world or fantastical feat you're trying to achieve. It's the same in science fiction as is in fantasy. So, what's the magic like? Why is it magical? Why does fire magic not work with water magic? Like what's the big, like, it should be very straightforward. But there has to be some logical connection that you have to connect with the audience to say, this is how this works and this is why, and this is the reasoning why these forces work in the metaphysical universe we're creating for you. Anyway, continue, please.
Yeah, sorry. Anyway, this is one reason why I kind of did the just call it the initiative in the beginning and set it a couple of 100 years. So it was building things up over time. I didn't want things to do things rushed. It was just near the end cycle. Things obviously picked up a little bit more because, technology and things like that. Adding to the premise as well would actually be the manipulation of the humans. Because once again, I'm not having the initiative as some kind of benevolent kind of, we're going to try and save everyone, really. And that the initiative, when the humans first arrived on the scene on the galactic scene, they were already behind everyone else. And the council already put regulations, but humans have got high drive. They want to explore. The initiative was like, if we need to start building ships, we're going to need resources. And if we start trying to get resources from the conventional routes, people are going to be a bit iffy about what we're doing. People are going to start noticing things. So the humans, on the other hand, they have all the access to these resources and they're pretty eager. We can just give them a bit of tech and then we can do a bit of trading with them because, they've got the resources, we've got them, we can have them on board. we throw them a bone. So there's a bit of an interesting thing. So they're like the humans are actually just being used to build these spaceships, which, by the way, is that I'm not having this as human centric. This is actually going to be Asari / Solarian builds that you're going to be working on. So it's not just like, like the Tempest is all very human built. I don't like that. So let's explore more alien races and their technology. Let's explore what an Asari ship looks like from the inside, or a Turian ship, or a Solarian ship, because we never ever get to sort of see that, do we? Outside of maybe a few cutscenes where it's all black and you get a few consoles in the cutscenes, isn't it?
That is interesting, because the one short conversation with Calo Jath and Andromeda was his reason for going was, well, I helped build and design the Tempest, and I don't care where it goes, I'm going with it. He's essentially Joker 2.0, and he doesn't care where he goes. He just wants to be in that ship, and this is his life. He lives for what, 30, 40 years. That is like, that's like the most established character for motivations, at least, that were clear and made sense. And I think that would work with the Asari having all their secret technology they're hiding, and the Solarians who have all these plans and they're not revealing them all, and they also have great technology. Yeah, use the eager humans, even though we've screwed up with the Krogans before, but now we've learned our lesson. We're not going to do that again. We're not going to uplift them the way we did with the Krogans. Instead, we're going to sort of say, hey, you wanna discover and learn more about the universe? Well, here's some little piece of technology, and we'll just keep feeding it to you, and you can improve your efficiency of strip mining meteorites or whatever, and off you go. So yeah, that would work. That would actually work with the lore of how the council races behave.
Yeah, so I'm still going online the idea of they're still using the mass relay to basically propel them. If that's all right, by the way.
That's kind of interesting, because once you have this mass relay pointing to the next galaxy over, you got to wonder what the hell the Reapers are thinking when they get there and say, what the hell were they doing with this thing?
Yeah.
Why is it pointing into the next? What did they do? Yeah. So there has to be like this stopgap where it blows up when they leave, or
that's what I was thinking. Yeah, it's kind of the idea of, like I say, it's just that, like I said, they just manipulated. They didn't build one; they just manipulated it. So the hacking bits you could sort of say that they would self-destruct the moment that the last ship would leave, and you'd be like, "Hey, nothing was here, guys." It's like, "See ya." We're just bypassing this thing. But like I say, that's just the general overview of why they were building this thing. Because, like I say, it started off as a kind of think tank, and then it grew into an actual contingency plan of, oh shit, if we can't stop this, we need a backup plan, and this is where we go off from it all. And the main bit as well, actually, is your character as well that you play. I'm not actually adding in the Rider family, because they don't do anything with it, and because it's just like, oh, it was a really good job that they did in Dragon Age 2, right, guys? I was actually thinking of, and that you actually play as another N7, but you actually play as a kind of a dishonored N7, one that was kind of was doing operations, kind of clandestine operations for the Alliance at the time, but which, by the way, this is the only good thing I'm actually taking from Jacob, by the way, from Mass Effect 2. So take that for what you will. And that this clandestine operation kind of got put into the public sphere, and the operation went really bad, and your name was dropped in the shit to kind of save a couple of politicians' career, the ones who authorized these ops in the first place. So your career, your military career at that point is kind of over, and that's when you get kind of contacted by Gian Garson, who would be the human liaison from the initiative, to kind of talk to you and kind of go, listen, you're a high drive character, your career is basically over, we can offer you a way out. This is what you were kind of wanting to do. You're already out on the frontier, in the goodness knows what. You've got a level of expertise working with aliens. We're going to need someone like you on our Pathfinder teams that are going to be needed.
I'd like to see. I'd like to see that. I would like to see an N7 or an N series network. I'd like to see an N2, an N3, an
Oh, yeah, it doesn't have
N6.
to be an N7, yeah.
Oh no. Like I want to see like all kinds of, because this is we're talking about the details of the alliance military specialists. Like
Oh, yeah.
imagine having an N6. You didn't get all the way, and there's a big like, why didn't you go all the way? It's like, well,
Maybe that could have been it, yeah. Like he was about to become an N7, then the operation went wrong and his name got revealed, so he couldn't become an N7 anymore because his name would get publicized, and that would end. Yeah, that'd be kind of interesting.
he'd be so like he'd be like the cream of the crop. He'd be like the top class, and then something really messed up. And it was like, okay, I got to get out of here, and no one wants to talk to him about it. He's pretty much got a lot of people killed, or whatever the case was. But along with that, if this is where we're taking the second personality type, if it's not family, it's extremism. So these people are so like they're really pushing to do this. These humans are really pushing. You would have to have the elusive man involved. And if you're going to go with the AI route, I want to have Martin Sheen as the voice of the AI. I would be like, this is awesome. There's Martin Sheen telling me to scan planets. Like, yes, I'm going to scan a goddamn. I hate scanning, but Martin Sheen is telling me I got to do this for humanity. And you take away all the attitude, all the pomposity of elusive man. It's just he's just a guy.
Deadpan, like this deadpan approach of
well, maybe not that deadpan. Like we're not talking about like Peter Dinklage from Destiny. That was that was horrible.
A wizard on the moon.
Yeah, that was like, okay, why did you hire this guy? Like there has to be something to him, and I think it would be really interesting to have Martin Sheen coming across as just a nice, kind, thoughtful voice that is trying to help. Because when we think of the elusive man, we think of this guy who's like got the weight of the world on his shoulders. He thinks he's got all the power in the world, and he kind of almost does. He's moving like trillions and trillions of bucks. He's killing people. He's got all these plans in motion. So I would see that the Cerberus would want to preserve this mentality, this ego, but not the personal aspect, the intellect, the insight, the charismatic aspect. So put that into an AI, and wow, that would be crazy. Like just the problems that would happen as a result of that.
I was actually not going down the AI route, but that's actually good. Don't get me wrong, that's good. Like the reason why I'm sort of doing this one is it actually goes into your character selection screen. Like you won't just be a soldier and adept, right? You actually have, you basically choose your class, which would actually either be soldier, adept, and engineer, but then obviously further specializations down the route. But then you'd also choose a additional one, like such as xenolinguistics, botany, and all these other kind of scientific fields that would be addition to that would make you part of, once again, why you were selected for this kind of thing, because it's like you can operate with, you're not just a soldier. Anyone can be a soldier, but the fact that you can work with, say, understand alien languages, you would really want that. The idea of you being a soldier is just more than a bonus, pretty much, or an adept or something like that. Excuse me.
Yeah, there should definitely be an aspect of survival outside of shooting things that you would be talking to aliens. You'd be really good at picking up new languages, growing crops, growing food, how to treat soil, how to create soil, how to keep plants alive, like all those little things
in hostile environments. So that's what's kind of going for, but you won't actually be the leader, at least initially. You won't be the leader of the Pathfinder team. You'll just be assigned to the Pathfinder team itself. And so like you basically got like an Asari who's obviously like way more experienced than you, but you're already great, as it were, anyway. But like I say, so obviously you get sent ahead of the main group, of the main body, to make sure that things are clear, because that's what Pathfinders do. You're designed for deep range exploration. Like you want the people who are, dare I say, going to be the making babies kind of group, right? You're the high drivers. You're the kind of people who will, kind of go, yeah, what's over that kind of building? Those kind of basically nutters, the absolute nutters of the species, and that's why that's where you'd be part of an exploratory fleet that'd be sent ahead in there. Naturally, like all good things go wrong, and the initial alien contact is actually goes very badly, and it ends up like in a very bad firefight. And this is where the kind of the addition between story and the interaction, how you can actually shape the story, begins. Because I didn't just want things to be very kind of binary in a kind of way, you know. I wanted the idea of, like, there's many good ideas, like in, I think it was Dragon Age Inquisition, where in Haven, where you have to save people from the burning buildings. I was like, that's really good. I'm saving people from burning buildings. And then you get to the Skyhold, and it's like, oh yeah, by the way, we already have a blacksmith, we already have a merchant. It's like, what's the bloody point if you're just going to replace everyone? So what I was thinking of is that you actually, in the initial kind of firefights, you're kind of like the last man or woman standing, the only one who's capable of fighting. You obviously have the choice of like saving, you could save people along the way if you're good enough. And obviously you fight off the this indigenous alien race to the Andromeda galaxy. And obviously if you save those people, then that will actually help you mechanically speaking, so they can improve your weapons, they can improve the survival rate and what have you. They're not just going to be like a castaway kind of thing. They will continually help you out. So if you lose them, you lose their ability altogether.
See, right? What I wanted to see, I don't know if you remember from the demo of Dragon Age Inquisition where they showed the option. It was a binary option. We have to go to that village and save it.
Yes.
Or we have to go over there and we lose the village. And that's a pretty, I mean, in terms of, it's a time mission. So technically, if you were fast enough, you could potentially do both. And if you're a spaceman and you got all these spaceships and you got a dune buggy, imagine you just charging in really quickly. I got the hell, like just freaking out and just killing everything that moves and saving all the guys and then running all the way back and you know, doing the same binary choice and managing to save that. And everyone looks at you like, what the hell is this guy on? He must be a rocket ship on his back or something. and that would be like the thing that makes you a Pathfinder. You have this insatiable urge. And if you're going to be that boots on the ground, the player would go, oh, crap, I should have rolled a Vanguard. Or I should have rolled an engineer. Maybe he gets a boost to dashing because he could modify his jets or whatever. Whatever the logic is behind the lore of the world. To have the freedom, because it is an open world concept, to then run away really quickly and then run back really quickly. Because that's how they designed the combat to be running, gun, and jump, and linear movement and vertical movement and all that stuff.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking of, and like in that initial kind of firefight. But one of the things, actually, this is a bit of a side option, but Andromeda always it's kind of taking down the same path of you're dealing with ancient technology. Sorry, excuse me, I got a bit of a frog in the throat. You're always dealing with ancient technology, like the remnants, things like that. I was like, you know what? Get rid of that. I'm getting rid of it all. I'm tired of dealing with ancient alien technologies, and it's just a bit tiresome for me. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just getting a bit tired of it always being present, really. So the twist, I'm putting this on its head a little bit, and the twist is that when these automated drones were actually sent out in the 100 years preceding your arrival, that actually upset the technological balance of the Andromeda species. So they ended up evolving technologically a lot quicker than they really should have been. So you're kind of like the instigators of your own problem. You kind of like made your own problem inadvertently by doing this kind of stuff. And
that would have to be a major plot point where you select what do you do.
Yeah. And so the reason why those aliens attacked you wasn't because you're invading their space. It's because they're after your technology. You're the remnant, after all. You're the remnant of your civilization. And guess what? Since you're the exploratory fleet, you're the first arrivals, guess what's en route? There's a massive colony ship. That's a massive technological buffet that they're going to dig their teeth into. You're going to have to search after those people. You're going to have to find a home for them. You're going to have to fight for a home. That's your motivation as the Pathfinder.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah. That's, like I say, that's what I mean by just the skeletal structure of that. And obviously you'll have aliens along the way, but the interaction with it all, like how the dialogue system would work, would kind of go into, it won't just be, I'm just going to talk like this. It would involve body gesturing. Like, you know, how DSX, Human Revolution did their dialogue,
Right.
the emotional thing. Do something like that. And plus as well, make sure your characters can actually interact with the scene itself. So if you've made a character, everyone's going to be professional with you, so they're going to do their jobs no matter what. You know, the continued survival of the species is going to be great. You know, that's good. But if you work with them a lot better, and they trust you implicably, then they're going to be injecting into conversations that will help the conversation turn around. So, for example, you've got a character who's, let's say, based around electronics, so they can unlock things, or a xenolinguistics. Let's say your character didn't pick xenolinguistics. You kind of go, hey, Cora, you've got xenolinguistics. She'll then intervene and kind of go, actually, he's actually meaning this, or this is the kind of gesturing that I'm kind of getting from him. Proceed down this kind of route to help you along the way. So the characters will actually help you in the dialogue scenes themselves.
That would work fantastically, because Mass Effect is pretty much, to my knowledge, or to my own personal experience, about the dialogue. So if you have dialogue where multiple actors, it's not just one-on-one, are involved, and not just, hey, Tally, how's it going? Yeah, I'm fine. You know, it's not just this snide remark here and there. They're actually part of the conversation. Then, yeah, that's a lot more involved. It's a lot more complicated, but it's still working along the lines of, I need to get something done. How do I do it? I have these 3 or 4 options to do so. And I might not be skilled at something, but I have someone who is. And that'll fill in the blank if you decided to build your character a different way. And you just happen to always bring the scientist with you, and you've upgraded him to hack things or to learn things.
Yeah, so the other idea is that your missions will have like a kind of success rate. Like plot point missions, you'll always have enough to continue the plot, obvious reasons, right? But if you mess up on certain situations, then your friends can actually then be damaged and injured and then sent to the med base, so you can no longer use them for a good couple of missions. So if you fuck up, you're going to get punished for it. So if you mess up that diplomacy, they're going to be hurt as a result.
That's interesting, because it's all based on what you want to do with these characters, and not knowing that if you screw up, they're going to get hurt. And then, I wanted to use them in the next mission because I didn't use them before.
Now that with that consequences.
Yeah, because you won't know. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious, though, how that relates to the major themes of the story. Because if we're talking about bringing these people there, and again, maybe I'm limiting myself in my understanding of the personalities that would actually go along with this. Are they doing it out of desperation? Are they doing it because they're type A supermen? They just want to keep pushing and pushing, or are they doing it for family? So you have these 2 or 3 major personalities: the adventure-seeking, thrill-seeking, aggressive character type, and then you have the familial, the friendly, I'm here because I love my family, very understanding sort of group. So I would imagine that those sorts of conversations would go along those 2 extremes, that let's get along, we're all a big family, we have to work together. It's like, no, we got to survive, you're in my way, do it my way, or you're going to die, or whatever. I'm guessing that's going to be the major story sort of theming, conversation, dialogue.
Yeah, speaking of which, though, the only bit I'd actually intervene with actual character motivation, because me and making characters, I'm not that great at them, but I was thinking of that the Asari character, because everyone has to have an Asari. It's the law of Mass Effect, right? It's hard coded.
I hope so. Hopefully more than one nose type. That would be nice.
Right. I was thinking of that the Asari that comes along with you as part of the Pathfinder group may actually be the daughter of the Spectre who started the initiative in the first place. And that's why she's along. So that Spectre actually died of old age before she could actually see the fruition of the project. And that's kind of her motivation.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about family. We're talking about adventure. And with the case of Kalojath, we're talking about just going because he was part of this project. He was part of the Tempest. He doesn't care where it goes. He just wants to be around that thing, which is, I guess, very similar to the family mentality of like, you go with your family because that's what you do. So Yeah, I mean that's that. I mean that's the individual average player or viewer looking at this and say, why the hell would anyone go to this thing? So that's the general thing. Then we have the actual point of the mission, which I don't know if it should be a mystery that much. It would be like, okay, listen, we're all going to die. It should be pretty freaking obvious. If you know, you have to work with what they did with the series. You got to go, okay, well, we screwed ourselves up. We got to go with one of those goals, and take the things that really stood out, the big characters, the big names, the elusive man, the shadow broker, Saren, you know, those kinds of personalities, those kinds of drives, and take that with you. Take that and bring it on to Andromeda. So you're bringing a lot of baggage that you're trying to always get rid of, and it's come forth. I just like the idea of having Martin Sheen buzzing in my ear all the time. So it comes forth in little versions of that are trying to remain, these little memes that are just offshoots of what the Milky Way brought. And I think that would be nice. I think that would, because you have to maintain the continuity in some way. Yes, Blasto the jellyfish sting. Yes, anything culturally appropriated from the Milky Way would be the perfect thing, because people want that. People want Quarians. People want Elcor. People want all sorts of wacky things that made the pulpy nature and value of Mass Effect be what it is. So you can't just abandon all the lore, which they almost did. I mean, oh, we love Krogans, so let's bring Krogans. Why? Because they wanted to come along. You see, that actually makes, as stupid as that is, Krogans need to survive. They are willing to do anything. They're the type A personality. That makes sense. So yeah, we think about it. We hear about why the hell are Krogans going along. It's like, okay, you wanted to fight the genophage. You do whatever it takes. Okay, I could totally buy that. How they got on the ship, I have no idea. How they allowed them to come on. Why would they allow them to come on, though? I don't understand that. There would have to be, I don't know, some sort of work order. They were, a contract, like, okay, you're going to do this. And after that, you go your own way when we set up a colony and you fight for yourself. I don't know. It sounds awkward, but they're the right mentality. They're the right personality to bring along on this voyage.
They're also great survivors as well. The reason why I'd sort of bring along a Krogan is because these are the kind of beings that can survive in a lot of harsh environments. So
right.
That's why you would want one, because it's like this. You can stick this guy anywhere and he'd live off rocks and whatever's around him. That's what you want. So he or she's going to be like your survival experts. These are hardened people, and of course it's like, why would you want the Quarians along with him? Because these people have been around in long generational ships, so you have to have that contingency plan.
Right. See,
if something breaks.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear about in the lore of Andromeda. Now, obviously, I haven't played I haven't played it at all. I haven't watched it all. I haven't watched all of Ex Latalis's playthrough or everyone else's. I was hoping that maybe there's a codex entry where we see, you know what, the Quarians designed these things because that's what they're really good at, and the Asari designed the habitats because they really understand every physiology and cultural aspect, and they're that kind of character. And yeah, the Krogans designed, I don't know, the weapons for lasting, for durability, because they're tough people and they use weapons a lot.
Actually, sorry. That was actually I should have really touched on, was that all the technology, like the aesthetic of what your guy actually looks like, all of that technology would have to be built in a certain way to last in Asari's lifetime. Because if something breaks, you're not going to have a replacement. So all the technology is going to be a lot more basic, dare I say, but it's going to be 100% practical. Like, it's 100% practical. It's not going to be fancy. You're not going to have any kind of large hollow displays or anything like that. It's like, this is something that could take in part of an asteroid and still function.
See, that would be cool. That would be cool because of the weapons are such. They're not low tech, but they're not high performance. They're completely functional. They'll last long. They're default. So you'd have like assault rifles, or whatever. Even not even assault rifles. You just have a gun that will never jam. It will never run out of ammo. It will always work. And then you get to Andromeda, you find new resources, and you start building on top of that. Like stuff like that, like just technology that lasts and lasts and gets the job done. It doesn't go 400 miles per hour or whatever. It goes 120, but that's as high as it could ever go. So the average is probably 60 or 70, and the engine is going to last you a lot longer. So yeah, that's the kind of the mentality of everything should be like that. It should be this long-term. You build something to last. You build it for ease of use. It's extremely durable. It's extremely ergonomic. It has multiple uses. A weapon could also be a shield, or anything along those lines, where your armor is also your spacesuit. You have multiple contingencies for defense, like multiple layers of kinetic barriers, a goddamn helmet that doesn't break when you hit a rock.
Yeah, the big glass dome, it's like, oh, this is great, guys. We live in a world where technology can basically allow us to see through objects, but we're going to have glass. Okay. Right.
Not just glass, but we're gonna degrade or downgrade our existing helmets, which could take bullet fire. And we're going to fall from a ledge of 2 feet and smack our heads with our glass helmet on a rock. And then, don't know how to repair that. Yeah, even though we just repaired it an hour ago, we forgot how to do that, and we can't fix glass. So yeah,
right. This would be an awesome bit, because once again, like, because one of the things I was interested in was like military technologies and how they actually design things. But there's a system called HAHO, high altitude, high opening. The idea is that the special forces guys, they go up high and then they eject in. They basically use like a wingsuit. I was like, so if, let's say, you're in a shuttlecraft and you have to bail out, well, your jump jet is only going to slow you down a little bit. Why not have a wingsuit built into your suit?
That's
so
not
you just
hard.
activate.
Yeah, that's not hard to do. It's just like, hey, it's little flaps, so you can maneuver when you're falling.
Yeah. And then you can also use, because one of the things as well that, what was it now? I called it a high altitude rapid descent, whereby the Mako actually has a mass effect generator, doesn't it? That can manipulate its mass, if I remember rightly. So it can make itself lighter or heavier.
That's interesting. I mean, that's great. I think they should be using all these technologies for defense and survival.
Well, this is what I mean by, so when you're ejecting, you basically have this belt that would have this generator. So if you're falling down at rapid descent, you basically just activate it so your mass becomes lighter. Then you hit your jetpack up a few times, so you're actually lighter, so you end up descending a lot slower.
Well, one thing I would have liked to have seen is just like, hey, how about a parachute? How about an airbag? Have you forgotten the magical power of air? How about decreasing your dropping velocity? We have technology that does that. It's called a big piece of nylon, and it just catches the atmosphere and it slows you. Like what? Like all these simple things. Like have it like a retractable parachute where it shoots out your arms or whatever. It catches you, you slow down, and then it just slowly starts winding back up into your back. And it's like, yeah, this is called survival gear. The same thing with surviving in the wilderness. Do you have a knife? Do you have a canteen? Do you have a distiller? Do you have
Metagel?
Do you have Metagel? Do you have a pack of heat sinks? Do you have an ammo block? Do you have a gun cleaning kit? Like anything? Like, do you have that? Like, I want to see details that the typical survivalist. I'm not talking about every single detail. I don't mean like, do you have a toothbrush? Do you have like, you don't have to go that far, but just
a belt ordering backpack,
something. Get like
in a day sack. Yeah,
you want a utility belt that has all the basics, and use that and show that and say, oh my God, I can't kill this alien with this pea shooter of a what was that? And I'm thinking XCOM 2, where you're underwater. You got these harpoon guns. It's like, it's not doing anything.
Yeah, you're up against the crowd and just ricocheting off their armor. Because that's another thing as well as the adaptation. Because I was thinking that the aliens in Andromeda will be utilizing weapons different from the Milky Way, so they won't be using mass driver technology. Which, guess what? Your shields won't be working against that.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to redesign everything. Now, that's one of the reasons why your first contact was so bloody, because your shields, your primary line of defense, that the thing that you were specifically geared for, didn't work at all. So what happens when you encounter that? That's part of the adaptation rule and the analyzing aliens and, dragging their bodies back and analyzing their weapons to build countermeasures for. So yeah, that's kind of like, so you obviously got weapon impact data from your dead bodies, but if you can get a weapon, you kind of go, okay, this is how their weapons work. This is how we can build up effective countermeasures against it.
That would be interesting, where you have to equip certain kinds of armor to defend against certain kinds of aliens, because you know what they're using. It's like, oh, I got to equip this armor, and it'll, like, the other armor will still protect me, but not as well. So you have to realize, or some of it will just not protect you at all. So you upgrade your armor, you change your armor a lot. There's lots of suits you have to swap in and out. Same with weapons. And then there'll be the desire to create the Omni gun or the Omni armor, where it just sort of does everything, but it doesn't do the best at anything. So it's like this generic scouting kit, but it's so cutting edge that it's not very efficient. It's very clunky, and you're sort of waddling around. It's, I can do anything, but I'm not very mobile. And then you have like the refined version of that, where you're actually light and quick, but you're going to get torn apart. Like stuff like that, like radiation, lava, whatever the hell, like anything that you have to go through that is an environmental hazard that you can, and it doesn't have to be complicated. Again, it could just be like, oh, your shields are dropping, get out of there, as opposed to boom, you died because you'd never bothered to research it in the first place.
You have like an armor degradation bit where like your armor's only going to protect you for a certain number of seconds within that environment. Now you jump into a pool of lava, it's like, I could probably survive. This armor gives me around about 12 seconds of me to get out of this situation.
Yeah, and if they explain the microfabrication, the magical microfabrication tool of your Omni gadget to repair things, and it's like, okay, not only am I replenishing my shields, I can also slowly walk and fix my leg or fix my arm, and
oh, that would actually be an interesting ability of like called Siphon, whereby you can actually like wireless transfer energy from one enemy to your shields.
Right,
that'd be interesting. Like
that's
that kind of ECM, like electronic countermeasure warfare, and ECCM and things like that. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, all kinds of ways of using what you've got right now in the most efficient way possible to achieve a goal. Like, my shields are down. What do I do? Steal them. How do I steal them? Well, it's using the electromagnetic spectrum. I ran out of juice. Let's steal some electricity. Boom. My shields are slowly coming back. What do I do if I'm in a magma sort of environment? Well, there's all kinds of rock types around me. I can use this kind of material, and I can start rebuilding my armor because it got shot off. This is getting a little too nitty gritty, but this is where, if you're going to do a survival game in another galaxy where technology is weird and things are completely alien, that could be a big selling point, where you have to know what to put on. You have to know what you're coming up against, and it's all about information. Who has it? What kind of people am I going up against? So you could have, and I don't know why they took this out of the game, where you could not equip armor and weapons on your squad mates. Like, what's the point? Why would you? I mean, it defeats the purpose of having an RPG. Like, why would you do that? Why would you take away all the customization out of a Garrus character who is designed to be a sniper or an assault rifle guy, and you can't even change his weapon or armor? Why would you, like, why is it a third? Why are your squad mates there? Like, I don't know, but if you're playing Insanity, are they even bothered with, like, what do they do? Are they meat shields? Do they just die? Like,
glorified gun turrets, aren't they, that just spout off one-line memes or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of silly. So there has to be a good practical usage for having a squad And as you said, the skills they have should be valuable to both dialogue, which is the #1 gameplay element, and then combat.
Yeah, there's a lot of like I say, there's a lot of things. Obviously, like I say, that you got the nitty-gritties and things like that. But just by going off that kind of initial, like that's what your role, that's what your mission turns into. Like the mission's gone from a kind of, yeah, let's take it a nice relaxed approach to, okay, now we have to fight through this. We've got a hostile alien race that kind of wants to gobble us up, and is more than happy of just throwing out, 500,000 civilians out of the airlock just to get our technology. And so that kind of results in this kind of, like I was talking about the success rate, because one of the things there is that I want to make time an actual resource, but not in a literal kind of, is it Dead Rising one where you literally have like a 72 hours or something like that? I don't want it like that. That's a bit too extreme for most things. But I was thinking of that when you do plot point missions, if you start doing side options along the way, well, that means that the enemy at the end are still going to be, well, they're still going to be around. So the more stuff you do on option, they're going to be more and more reinforced, right? And you know that bit with when you do Zaid's loyalty mission, and if you go down the Paragon route, then you let that guy, is it the Blue Suns guy, get away?
Right.
Right. I was thinking of like, well, because you're going down the Paragon route, well, that guy's still alive. He's going to bite you in the arse later on down the way. So when you do that next encounter with that specific alien race, he's going to be there with all his soldiers and his experience, and they're going to be a lot more entrenched as a result. So your gameplay actually changes. Like if you try to do all the side options along the way, you're going to have to pay for it. And if you lose, or if you don't do things right, they will get away, and you'll have to face them as later repercussions or something like that. That's what I was going for anyway,
Yeah, the main aspect or the thrust of a Mass Effect game is dialogue and having your choices have some sort of foreseeable meaning behind them, and that could relate to gameplay. That could relate to simple things like I made a choice, so my combat in the future is going to be harder or difficult in a certain way, benefiting a certain style of gameplay. So if you're a sniper, they have better shields. If you're a biotic, they have better armor, or whatever the defense against biotics is. I can't remember exactly. So, sorry?
Is it barrier that biotics have?
They have a biotic barrier. I don't exactly remember the. You have to whittle down shields first, and then you can start affecting them because they have. Break down their armor.
They changed it. Yeah,
Mass Effect 2, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, okay, well, there has to be a balance between the three major modes of gameplay: biotic, engineer, and just straight up shooting. Yeah, shooting and guns. So that would be the basics.
I was actually thinking of this is where like something like I mentioned like System Shock 2, whereby you had psionics, and the more abilities that you kept on doing, it's kind of like playing Russian roulette. The more times you keep doing it, the more chances it's going to go wrong with you. So if you're if you're a biotic and you're pounding it out like a mother hubbard, then your body's going to become more and more tired, and then the point whereby you're actually damaging yourself. You're having nosebleeds, and characters like starting to like stumble and fall, but you're still like firing it off. There's a bit in Witcher 2 where you see Mary, is it Triss? She activates that shield, and then she just kind of goes like freaking doolally. Things like that would be great. So it's like, yeah, you're a powerhouse, but you're like you've got like a nuclear generator strapped to you. Like you could go Chernobyl at any moment.
That would work with the mentality, not the mentality, but how Caden was always getting these headaches. He's very powerful, but he can only do it for so long, and he has to eat a lot of food. He has to recuperate. So I think that would be, and then of course you could do upgrades. You can do all sorts of things like all this invasive surgery and.
Well, that's what I was thinking of the leveling up system, is that because your character gets damaged at the start, you're actually repairing yourself to your former glory.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
So basically, so when you start off in the very first mission, it's like you're basically like this. Yes, I am an N7 god, and then suddenly like you start getting injured more and more. There's not enough Medigel to keep you going, and you have to use Medigel to keep other people alive. that's another thing as well, like keeping yourself alive, and you have to use Medigel to stabilize other people. So that's the kind of twist, you know, to gameplay and whatnot. But when you get to the end and whatnot, obviously for the power of cutscene, you get a lot more injured. So it's like, yeah, no, you're just having implants and therapies and things like that to basically, you know, it's like if you've broken your arm, then you can't use that arm for quite a while. So that arm's going to be under, the muscles are going to not be under you. So when you try to pick something up that you tried to do before, it's not going to be as great. So you're going to have to kind of relearn your muscle grouping and things like that. And obviously the mental implants.
That could be very complicated. I think if they're going to do something like that, they would just replace you and use another squad mate, and then you could control that squad mate.
Well, I was thinking of that, you're kind of left out on your own, and the thing that I'm getting with the Pathfinder here is that you're kind of isolated. You're the only few people left to kind of keep things going, and you've got all these people on the way, so you can you're going to have to make, you know, you've got automated medical machines and things like that. I was just thinking of making it in the sense of, yeah, it's just your leveling upgrade, but your leveling upgrade system is just basically done in the med bay rather than on the character selection screen. So it gives the doctor something to bloody do and talk about. Yeah. That was just the general idea I was going for, rather than, oh, you hit C and then you put points into assault rifles, and which I love, don't get me wrong, but, you know.
Well, it's better than I would imagine, if you're going to go the open world route, which I don't know why it's popular so much. But yeah, it's the Skyrim idea of leveling up. You just keep using it more and more and more. And then your arrow shooting ability is so amazing. You know, just critical hit everything in the head. Yeah, you're really good at it.
I was thinking of supplementing yourself with technology just to kind of keep yourself up to your original status, really. And when you complete missions, you gain the resources necessary to build those specific implants to keep you on par, keep you at your edge. And if you really want to go, actually improve yourself, but maybe actually have a bit of confliction, like this idea of the more and more cyberized you become, people will actually start to kind of go like, is that a good idea? You know, like, are you really going to be you know, maybe there's an actual sacrifice to your dialogue abilities if you start using too many implants, that you start to lose bits of your humanity, so certain bits of dialogue just get grayed out, so you can't use it.
Oh, what does that remind me of? What's that indie game that it's magic, it's tech magic, and Shadowrun. Yeah, yes. The more the more implants you get, the less humanity you have, the less magic you can perform, which was one of the bases for the character Mercy, who she was being hunted by a demon or something, and she had to just keep implanting herself so that she could never get possessed. I thought that was interesting. That involves a whole other element. You're talking about using technology to change humanity, and it's interesting. I don't know if that would be a major theme. You'd have to really think about what the major themes in the story are. It would work with the upgrade system, that's for sure. So it would be practical, but you'd have to focus on, say, okay, this is what the story's about. And then once you have that, you establish the fact that if you do this, the gameplay option for dialogue will change this way. The gameplay option for combat will change this way. And I don't know how that, like, you have to really figure that out. That's a lot of detailed work.
Yeah, I suppose it kind of goes into this idea of giving up your principles for the necessary survival. What are you as a person, as a soldier or a Pathfinder, willing to give up for the greater good, kind of thing? And, you know, if you keep going down that,
that's what I thought as a Pathfinder would be. Not a physical dude. Obviously, you're the guy on the ground who anyone could be on the ground and run around, but he's actually a leader in saying, okay, I've discovered XYZ location. We have to live now under radiation treatment. So everyone should get these implants that suppress or excrete certain hormones that deal with or whatever that treat with radiation sickness as we adapt to this sort of environment. And then, of course, we'll create technology that does that. Or we'll develop along the lines of biotics, and we'll create these gigantic barriers, and they can somehow. Well, actually, no, biotics has nothing to do with radiation. That's against the lore. Yeah, like something along the lines where you choose the path to develop, and that
Yeah,
will determine how that colony is not just, oh, it's a military colony, it's a science colony. Well, whoop-de-doo, right?
yeah, I suppose you can kind of go, it's like either a quick and easy fix, like you just give the people the implants that would make them last a lot longer, or you can develop, you give them more long rooted, kind of way whereby you have to put up the corrective level of alloys that could absorb the radiation or deflect the radiation or something like that.
Right.
But
So
that would take longer.
yeah. So you got like the pure human path where you don't modify yourself at all. You've got the cybernetic path where everything's augmented and you're pretty much you're Saren 2.0, I guess. And the
Make yourself
third,
useful, you.
yeah, you're not augmented enough. Let's see some cybernetic legs there. You can't run fast enough. Let's go. You pick it up. And the other one would have to be biotic, I guess. You're using your biotic abilities to create things. Everyone has to drill into the ground, so you're going to be using your mind to create holes. Everything would revolve around having a biotic community. And the culture that comes from that, I don't know. That's a lot of, like, you have to figure out what that means.
That's where the other writers, that's what I mean by that's why I know we're kind of going into the nitty gritty something, but by me just doing that kind of skeletal work frame, and that allows these other things to exist. And like I said, I'm not a writer or anything like that. I'll never ever be a writer. But like I say, just by doing that kind of initial thing, it's like, oh yeah, now all these kings can exist. And it's like, do you want to live people in habitat domes, or do you want people to, do you want scientists to go out into the flora and fauna to develop vaccines? So how do you want to go? Do you want to go for, like you say, purist, or a more kind of equilibrium kind of way into the environment? Because when you're dealing with alien, when people don't understand that when you land on an alien world, it's not just going to be like, yeah, take your helmet off. It's like, right. The pollen that I'm breathing in now is giving myself anaphylactic shock. Anyone got an EpiPen now on standby? It's like, there's a lot of information that you have to deal with. And this is what I mean by the Quarians would be a brilliant example, and kind of going, when you enter into a new world, you can't just kind of go, yeah, everything's going to be ding dong diddly fine. It's going to be like a 10-year survey of people in domes, eventually eking out and then building up necessary information. Because there could be some kind of bug or fungi or something out there that could just kill you for no reason other than just existing there, because that's how it evolved. It's just, you come from another galaxy. Nothing's going to be the same as you. That's a bit human centric, isn't it? Like, I landed on this planet, therefore all the planets must adapt to me.
Yeah, and I think removing the remnant as terraformers is, I mean, it's such a hokey device. Oh, we don't know how to terraform, but there's this ancient civilization who have these massive planet-shaping vaults that will do it for us. It's like, what? What a coincidence. How did they know that we were going to come here and this is exactly, and how did we know we needed an AI in our
Why
brains?
didn't they just fix it in the first place when they built the bloody thing? What was the world that much in cataclysm? Like when they were building these things?
I gotta wonder what the hell were they thinking? We want to create a planet that can adapt to any environment, but we don't know which environment, and then we're going to leave. So we'll just put this giant terraforming tool, and we'll call it a day. We'll go elsewhere. And it's like, what the hell? Like, why would they do that? Like, what is the value in creating a planetary sized terraforming tool that can only work with a non-organic life form, which I guess is the AI? I don't understand the setup for that. There has to be something.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like some kind of Necron tomb world where you end up probing in. It's just like, holy crap, this is actually a remnant species which is going to become active and try and take over, and you've just accidentally unleashed them on the galaxy, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh boy, was I wrong.
they called them vaults. There must be something in the vaults.
Yeah.
But no, it's a terraforming device.
It also has dark energy and dark matter, and it's like, that amount of dark matter located in one look, that's going to make so many. And dark matter is called dark matter because you can't see it. It doesn't glow.
you don't.
That's why it's called dark matter. It's
yeah, you don't know what it is. You can't really detect it. It could be boson based. It could be fermion based. It could be anything. We don't know. So to say it's dark matter is like saying, what do you mean it's right there? It's if your scanners are saying nothing, but you know there's something, that means you can see it, or you can detect it in a certain way. It's not some particle that Schrodinger's cat can't figure out. It's literally something right there. The reason dark matter is dark is because it's so far away, and it's not interacting with the way that we see things or with the way we detect things. Dark energy is a little different, but the fact that they even mention, oh, there's this dark energy cloud interacting with our spaceship, we're like, what?
Yeah,
it's just dark. It just happens to be dark energy. We don't know how or why. We don't even know how to manipulate dark energy, even though that's exactly what the Mass Effect field does.
Yeah, that's what biotics do. They manipulate dark energy to make gravity things. And
yeah, it's like, what do you stop using these terms when you've already discussed them and you've understood what they can do and you can actually manipulate them. It's very strange, the writers and their use of lore so far. It's not horrible. It's just like, why did you even bother to bring that up? Why is this happening in a side quest? Why is this hidden away? Couldn't you have brought this up in a better, cleaner, faster, direct method? Like, all I say is, if you want the premise of Andromeda to work, all you had to do at the first sentence of the game when Alex says his speech is, "The Reapers are coming." It's like, oh, okay, we get it. Or if you don't know the series, you're like, okay, Reapers are coming. That sounds bad. So we should probably get the hell out of here. And if you use that as a selling point, do you want to live? Do you want to get the hell out of here? Because we want it too, and we need your help. That would do it. I think that would be the and you could make it a secret. You could like sell the wonders of a new galaxy and the promise of a new world, all the things that were part of the story, but do it in a better way. And they have to show the propaganda. They have to show the videos. And by videos, I don't mean in a third supplementary party method of marketing on BioWare's website. I mean in the damn game, where they show quick cuts of video of slogans of people walking up into the shuttle, kind of like in Fallout, the Fallout series. Oh, everyone's happy and we're getting to the vault and yay! That sort of attitude, that sort of promise for a new future, where Krogans and like everyone would be allowed. I don't know why the hell this has only to do with the 4 major council races. That doesn't make any sense. You need the two major people who want to escape this galaxy, or the 2 people that want a home, are the Krogans and the Quarians. That would be like, yes, we're the ones to go. We want to do this. And they're not even in a major part of the story. So, General's making a comment on the chat saying that Reapers could also be in Andromeda. And when you're thinking about how fast Reapers can travel and how old they are, yeah, it would make sense. They could travel to that place in about 300 years.
281 when I did the calculation.
Yeah. It's like, why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
What do they do? What do they do?
Controlling organic life. They would do that. Yeah. It's like, they do that in the entire cluster. What's stopping them? Which is why, the whole thing, like my other idea was just that have it set after the events of ME3, but like a couple 100 years after. And then you're just kind of dealing with the fallout from Casey Hudson and Mac Walter's ego, Sorry. I have to get that little jab in, don't we? But yeah, sorry about that anyway.
Well, I don't think it's their ego that got in the way. I think it was the writing that they could not handle it and they didn't know what to do. And here you have poor, I say poor Mac Walters because he was handed the worst possible scenario. We have hundreds of choices. Can you please make them all matter at the end of the story? And he's like, I need a lot of time. And then Casey's like, no, just keep it simple. And you're like, dude, you can't. You literally cannot keep it simple. You have hundreds and hundreds of questions to solve this, to fix this. So it's a big ball of mess.
There was a lot there, like especially with Mass Effect 3's development cycle. Like a lot of them during the cycle were working on ME2's DLC, and a lot of the team were ended up having to work on Dragon Age 2 for a long time as well, just to get that out the door, because EA kind of went, "Oh crap, Dragon Age Origins was a huge success for us." So there's a lot there that they were diverted on, unfortunately. So I think it's actually credit to the people who were working on Mass Effect to even get that thing out the door and working in the way of how it was. You can't really fault the grunts, so to speak.
No. But the fact that they actually went that route, and it's, if you want to tell a story where, I've said this before over the years, but if you want to tell a story of a bunch of AIs who believe that they're the supreme end of evolution and you have to become us or else you'll be destroyed naturally, well, you have to play to the simpleton of the crowd. So it's like, okay, what do we know about AI? Isaac Asimov, the three or four rules of AI robotics. Yeah. So the little kid, well, first off, he shouldn't be a kid. He should be like a philosopher dude trying to explain the philosophy, because this is ultimately an argument of ideals. It's not of like, oh, well, you're going to die, so we have to kill you first to make you us. It's like, no, that's stupid. So you have to explain things in a way that says, yeah, when you start going the route of AI, it is inevitable that those rules that you set up that are hard-coded will be overwritten. And there's nothing you can do to stop that. And then you're like, oh, really? So even though I do all this, like you have to put it on such a basic level that people who understand science fiction, understand AI, everyone knows that there's the theory that AI is going to, conquer us and become stronger and smarter and all that. Stephen Hawking's talking about it, all this crap, right? So start there and then go into detail, because these guys have been doing it for billions of years. And you just work with that. You just work with that premise that this, and then they have to explain why they're doing it their way. So it's this one method, and then all the complications that arise from that. Now that's one way of doing it. The second way is you work with the lore. And the lore said, if you go back to Mass Effect 1, we are beyond your comprehension. We are beyond your understanding, which means that this is a very complicated ideology. But it's still an ideology. So if there's an ideology, that means there are factions of thought within that ideology. So when the Reapers come, you're going to have the ideology of the less pain, the better. You're going to have the more pain, the better. You're going to have, well, conquering is good, but I'd rather slowly subjugate you. Or destruction is best. Or, you're going to have all these angles of looking at the ideology.
Yeah, because that's actually. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, like this is the two ways I would do it. Like one, you stick to the one reason why it's happening, and then you blow that up as to how and why and whatever, or you stick to the complicated. It's such a big idea that you have to then address every single one of those arguments, and it still becomes a conflict of ideals, and that's what has to happen. That didn't happen, so that's why we're left with dozens and dozens of questions as to why this apparently godlike race can't use basic logic.
Yeah, I was going to say, because when you talk to Vigil on Ilos, he kind of says that some of the colonies were just obliterated, others were subjugated and then indoctrinated into sleeper agents and then released into colonies to overwhelm defenses. But then you're thinking, but if the Reapers are that powerful, surely they should just be able to overwhelm the defenses naturally, right? So there's
Yeah,
so
why are
many
they playing
things.
these games? Why are they
Yeah.
wasting time? Yeah.
So yeah, so you kind of get this impression of like, is Sovereign kind of overstating what he's saying? Is he using the idea of, you know, if he's obviously understood certain aspects of organic life, like maybe he's the direct appeal of, let's say, fear, like the idea of he's an unknown entity, so therefore you don't know the capabilities of it. But humans are, well, let's say we're stupid when we're ignorant.
Right.
And we're like, oh, we don't care about you.
Well, Sovereign would have been the mentality because he's the vanguard. He'd be like, I go in, I get shit done, everyone's going to die. So he's like of the faction that is like, we kill everything, and then we try to, you know, bring together what what's still alive and make a Reaper out of it. So there's that aspect, and then there's the reproductive aspect. So they want to make more Reapers, and then there's the faction who's like, well, we got to preserve as much as possible. We want to reproduce as much as possible. We want to preserve as much as possible. So you have the liberal side of things. You have the conservative side of things. You have all these little factions within the Reaper mind. And as we know, Reapers are nations unto themselves. They are thousands and thousands of thoughts and ideas just hitting each other every time. So there has to be some internal conflict. And that's interesting. A supercomputer that's billions of years old, based on a a melted species. They have to really explain how melting people preserves their minds, for one thing.
The
Or
human
else,
smoothie.
oh God, yeah. I mean, and that also has two mentalities. That has the, if you put technology into the person becomes the technology. If you put the person in technology, the technology becomes the person. So, yeah, maybe the inorganic side of the Reapers became more organic because they used that way, and they could not think. They could honestly not think of using synthesis, which is just the exact opposite method, using exactly the same technology, as opposed to smoothing people. You slowly give them cybernetics until they become machines, and they're this weird cybernetic hybrid. They couldn't think of that. It just blows my mind how asinine this ending was.
Yeah, like why did they have to? It's like the whole thing falls apart when, if you've got that many Reapers in general, why aren't they just all around the Milky Way, just checking out every single planet
Yeah,
that can sustain organic life and kind of go, yeah, let's just keep an eye on that one for every couple of million years or so until they evolve. Once they reach a certain status, big Sovereign comes out and kind of goes, don't build synthetics, and then just disappears like the big giant heads from Rick and Morty. Yeah, show me what you got. You know?
well, why even disappear for 50,000 years? Why not just stay
Yeah.
around all the time?
Yeah,
Oh,
just
look.
keep influencing. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, look, they've built their first rocket. Okay, we'll stay behind this moon for another 100 years. Oh, they built a second rocket. Okay, well, nothing. Oh, they've built, their first Mass Effect core. Awesome. We'll stay here for another. It's like, why go far away? Why do all this unnecessary? Like, what do they do? What do they honestly do? They just sit there? Why can't they do that next to a solar system? It doesn't make any sense. Like oh, there's so many questions you have. And if this was a simpler plot, yes, the scale would be a lot smaller, but you'd still be just as confused. You'd still have just as many questions. It would just, every time I think about it, I just go, oh my God, how could they have decided upon the worst possible ideological waste, just thematically, intellectually, scientifically, practically? Everything is dumb.
So I've just got this picture now of like Casey and Mac and like the old folks home sitting in there with like dementia going, synthesis is the best way.
They have to be green. Green, I
Green.
tell you. But they
Synthesis
could have
should be
been
painted.
purple.
That's awful. I know. Yeah, it all kind of comes back down to it. But yeah, there was like a few. What was it? Oh, in was it? this is kind of a recurring theme, isn't it? Where like they have this really good bad guy in the beginning of the stories, like Dragon Age had the Blight. It's like, what is the, you know, the Blight's like supposed to be this kind of unknown. Even the demons of the Fade kind of don't know it, and then it's just like, oh right, it actually came from the Fade anyway. And you're just like, well, then surely the spirits of the Fade would know that then, right? Like, you know, it's like it's got to be something from outside, from their own original things. And then obviously Inquisition happened, and then completely kind of went, oh yeah, it's a big archdemon, but there's no Blight, even though that's one of the guys who actually originally made the Blight and would be giving the Blight to every Tom, Dick, and Harry that he touches. But there's no Blight. He's going to use a bunch of human insurrectionists to what?
Well, they luckily had a human opponent, as they did in Mass Effect, so that makes things good. I mean, if they didn't have Saren, it would be very odd to hunt down Benezia, and then what? I mean, we're just on the trail for.
I've got no problem with a humanized character, but I don't mean like in the sense of Dragon Age is a bit of an obscure one, really, wasn't it? Because you're dealing with an archdemon, and you're more dealing with the political wranglings of each faction, trying to solve those in different ways, aren't you? Whereas if you have like a figurehead, a humanized figurehead for doing their own reasons, then that's fine. I've got no problem with that. But when you've got Corey the crackhead bopping around spouting off nonsense, I kind of like take a little bit like, hang on a minute. It's like you've got this guy here who made the Blight. Surely this whole thing should be irrelevant. That's like, and then of course, by the way, actually, sorry to say it's on a bit of a tangent here, but the marketing material so does not line up with the released product anymore now. Like, you look at Dragon's Inquisition, look at all what the people were doing with all like the release, and people were overly analyzing it. Even look at the Mass Effect Andromeda's first cinematic trailer, I think it was. It looks completely different. And even like the cover art, I remember I saying this ages ago, like the cover art says, you know, you basically see your Pathfinder looking at the Hyperion crash landing. I thought that was going to happen in the beginning, and that's the reason why you have to set off on that mission. They have to try and find a new home because your Hyperion's crashed and people can't live here for so long. I was like, oh, that's a good idea. That's a good motivation. No, that doesn't even, that only happens at the end, near the end of the game. And you're just like, you're showing the ending in the promotional material? Why are you doing that?
That happens a lot now that you look at the older BioWare, well, not the first ones, but the actual videos. You'll see Mass Effect 2. A lot of the scenes, all the dramatic scenes, happen during the suicide mission.
Yes.
I mean, that's like when Shepard is reaching for Tali and he screams her name. Well,
yeah, that's on the that isn't
It doesn't actually happen that way. It happens when she dies, if she dies, when she gets captured by Seeker Swarms, and then they overlaid that voice over that scene. And, you know, for a Tali fan or anyone who played the first game who likes Tali, you're like, oh my God, I gotta get this game. I gotta get this game, right? So, yeah, those sorts of tricks. I mean, you give it to a video maker guy, and you give, okay, here's all your media assets. You have the whole game to work with. What do you do? Here's we just licensed 2 Steps from Hell. You know, here's this amazing trailer music. What do you do? And I still say Mass Effect 2's trailer is one of the best trailers I've ever seen. Because it's so like punchy. It's like bam, bam, bam. This is what's going on. It's inspiring. There's action. There's suspense. It's like, holy shit, this
romance.
It's gonna be a blockbuster. Yeah, it is a blockbuster, but it has to be a Mass Effect game in there some way as well, and that's where it fails. So yeah, it's sad that the trailer, and especially the trailer for Andromeda, where you have those guns hanging off your ass. And it's like, did you notice that? It's like, how does that work? The gun's just magically hanging. And
even like the still images that they have, it's just like, it looks like someone went into Gary's mod and just like haphazardly. I spent, yeah, guys, I've got this thing about Sarah Ryder here, you know.
Oh, and now there's the music from Andromeda, which is that crazy rapper guy.
Rag and Bone Man.
Yeah, right. I can't remember his name.
That's the artist's group name, Rag and Bone Man.
Okay, I saw the video, and it's in two other movie trailers. One of them is Inhumans, I think, and it's like, okay, this sounds familiar. And then there's another one. It's called Thank You for Your Service, which is I think an American movie about post-traumatic stress disorder, and a soldier coming home and dealing with that. Same piece of music, and I'm thinking, okay, this is a little more appropriate, using this multicultural aspect, being human, being different. This is not an element in Andromeda, at least as far as I can tell. There's no major theme of being different. Everyone's, I mean, you're talking about the Mass Effect universe, and everyone's already accepting of everyone's differences. This is no longer an issue in the future. And being an alien is being an alien, not because you're friends. It's because you're trying to conquer a planet, and they see you as interlopers, not because you're human. It's because you're alien. That's it. I mean, I'm only alien after all. I just want your resources. Don't put the blame on my food necessities. Whatever the lyrics of that would make sense. So, yeah, it's just like, okay, this song does not work. Doesn't sell me on anything.
That, and as well, they used a lot of licensed music, both published and unpublished, from like -S and is it Audio Machine that they do that? There's a lot of people who do like trailer music, isn't there? And a lot of the music that you would associate with Andromeda is actually made by many different other artists, composers, sorry, who have no affiliation with EA or BioWare. They just hire them out just to put it into their trailer.
Right.
So it's like, and then you actually listen to the soundtrack of Mass Effect Andromeda itself, and it's kind of sad, because it's really funny, because Mass Effect 1 actually had kind of the same issues as Andromeda did. Like, when they were going through it all, like, they didn't have many playable builds. Everyone's kind of working on their own thing, and it was all new technologies, but they just had the right people keeping it together. And then obviously you had Drew as well, who was penning it. He was the lead writer on it, and that's why it kind of worked. That's why it was a flawed game, but it was a nice, solid foundation to build up upon that. It gave us the Mass Effect world that we got introduced to, which was fantastic.
It's the same philosophy though with Dragon Age 2. I remember the developer diaries, at least the video developer diaries of Dragon Age 2, saying, "Oh, we can, now that we have the technology, we can do that." And they show like the blood smear going across Hawk's nose, and he's like, he's got this spell where these two arms rip off the arms of a canary, and it's like, oh wow, this is gonna be awesome. And of course, it never happens in the game. So it's like, oh well, you wanted to do that. I guess it wasn't enough technology. So it's like, they have all these big dreams. And I understand you can't do everything you think of, obviously, but if you can't get the basics figured out, and you're coming, like, it's literally, if someone gave you the rights to do the next Harry Potter book, or the next Lord of the Rings story, it's like you have all this stuff ready for you. You don't have to, you could reinvent the wheel, but you don't have to. The wheel's perfectly working. It's spinning. It's like, wow, it's on its axle. It's really moving really well. All you got to do is load it up with some good stuff, and half the work is done for you, pretty much. So what happened? I wish I could deconstruct the developer's desires with the writer's desires. Drew is still on board for the second game, so you have to.
Partner lead, wasn't he? So that was when you have two lead writers, there's a bit of a confliction. You're going to have, Drew wants to do the dark energy plot, but then let's say Mac wants to do the collector plot, and it's like, who's going to have the bigger stick kind of thing. And I kind of got the feeling that Mac kind of got the bigger stick to kind of go
I,
with.
I think it was because he was transferring to the next game, which was the Old Republic MMO.
Oh, right.
So it's like, okay, I know what I'm working on next, so I'm not as involved.
True, because he also actually, funny enough, the Drew is actually working on Anthem.
Right, which is definitely not a bad thing.
That's a little bit of hope for the story, which is because let's be honest, whenever BioWare tried to tout off combat as like, we've got this new combat, it's like, well done, BioWare. Welcome to 2006. But it's like if the story's good and the world is being built in a nice, good way, then that's fine. But the thing about Drew as well is that as much praise I like to give him for Mass Effect, he did kind of kick Revan in the balls. If you ever played the Old Republic with the whole Revanite thing, there's something he just basically managed to ruin Revan.
I saw the cutscene. I saw the with the not just Revan but also the exile.
Yeah, you just like they basically turned Revan from like this interesting character into some basically the loony in the woods level of like almost what was KOTOR's 2 plot now was Kriya's trying to kill the Force or something?
She was trying to create a scar in the Force that would deafen it so that it would never, all the Force user would be silent so that it would no longer interfere with people's lives. And she wanted to teach a lesson to all the Jedi who didn't understand what the Force was and how it works and all that crap. It is a bit convoluted for me to explain because it builds up and you're like, what are you talking about, lady? Holy crap. And it's more of a dramatic thing than it is a mechanical operation. It's like she's at Malachor 5 symbolically, and she's there because you realize that you're coming after her. So she stops what she's doing and fights you. But yeah, she wants to kill the Force essentially. Yeah. Which is impossible, but she's crazy. So
I'm going to kill the air with my lightsaber. Shoo air, shoo away. We know she's old, but I don't think she's that far gone.
She's old. She's crazy. She's powerful. It does the crazy plots don't have to make sense. It's like Kefka in Final Fantasy VI. He's nuts. He's gonna blow up the world again. It's like, okay, we gotta stop this crazy person. It doesn't. You can have a plot like the Joker from Batman, who's just nuts.
Yeah,
and you're like, okay, we gotta stop this crazy person.
Yeah, it's like an idea. What was it now? That I kind of had ages ago, whereby you've got like this confliction of, you've got, let's say, a piece of technology that someone gets infused with, but that kind of like, you kind of got this conflict over their objective versus the overriding nature of the machine. So it's like, this guy's like basically gone insane in the sense of like, he's trying to preserve humanity or, trying to preserve things by trying to like conquer things or destroy things if things get in the way. And, you kind of got this interesting, it's a madman, but everyone has to respect it because of their authority and maybe give them like some kind of almost prophetic kind of sensibilities, like they can see into the future or something like that, and like, oh crap, actually this guy's a bit of a loony, but he's right, So.
Yeah, it's a classic trope in RPGs. You have the plucky young hero who discovers some gauntlet or talisman, or maybe the long dead race person is a female priestess of some church, and she has an amulet that responds to some old technology and yada yada. And they come along with you as a plot device and open doors and all that crap. I mean, it's essentially what happens in Mass Effect with Shepard, just in a more believable way. And that's fine. You can use those tropes. You just have to do them well, believably, and hopefully in a new light that is not going to insult the average gamer going, oh yeah, okay, yeah, he can now open doors. All right, yeah, okay. He can talk to dead things. All right, that's fine. It has to be like, oh, all right, you got an AI in your head. That's not freaky at all. Yeah.
And the fact that that thing can control your respiratory and heart rate system,
God,
like how far is that ingrained into you? Like, and you know what I mean? It's like the developers don't understand what is known as dead, right? Like when you are dead, you have ceased all brain activity. In other words, your body has stopped generating heat. It's lost everything. When you are dead, you are dead. You would have to have an external force, i.e. someone with a defibrillator there with you. It's like, I'm beginning resuscitation procedures right now. How is this AI in your head doing compressions going 1 to 15 and then giving you the two or three breaths in between that? How is it doing that? How is it, okay, yes, you can actually use the oxygen that's within your arteries already that can actually sustain you for a couple of moments, but you still need to have that action of the heart being pumped. You know what I mean? You can't just...
They needed to, I haven't gotten to that point in the story, but they needed to explain why your father saved you and why injecting you with Sam's protocols or whatever saved your life. Because at the end of that, he says, "Oh, you were clinically dead for 20 seconds or whatever it was." So it's like, okay, Sam knows how to deal with that. And then later on in the story, supposedly, he kills you, and you're like, "Oh, how much control does this thing have?"
Right.
And why was that the only option available? And why didn't you consult? Like it's just this completely invasive, almost like a parasite inside you that can manipulate your endocrine system, your immune system, all these systems of your body to the point of being able to kill you. So if he has a glitch, if he has an update, some kind of software malfunction.
Well, what happens if he goes HAL 9000? Let's say you go, the Sam kind of goes, "You aren't proceeding in the correct ways as a Pathfinder should be proceeding." Bump, you're dead. Holy crap! It's like you're basically teetering on eggshells and how you're going to react.
And keep in mind that everyone else on the team has the implant as well, just not the protocol. So he can knock you off and just download himself or upload himself into someone else.
Right? That's not worrying. And the fact that he can see through you as well is a bit like, I think we mentioned this before, especially when you get into the romance scenes where he's just like, Sam just going like, that's not weird, is it? It's like just the whole thing of like just constantly observing you all the time.
That's interesting because I didn't actually watch any of the romance scenes, and I was told that the best animation in the game is it's chorus. I have no idea. I was like, what? That's where they put all their efforts into. Was it really that worthwhile?
That was because of one animator actually went out of his way to actually do that. I think Young Yi talks about it, and he said that that's the reason why it was a lot better, because he went and physically touched it up himself. So when Mac Walters is probably going, "Oh yeah, the animation's absolutely fine," he's probably watching that one bit itself. It's like, yeah, that's fine. I don't need to review the West now. That's the thing that I don't like about when they do like these promotional materials, like with Mass Effect 2, where they had like Will Wheaton of all things.
Oh, good Lord.
When they said like, yeah, your characters will interact and have arguments with each other in Mass Effect 2. There's only 2 times that ever bloody happens. It's like, I've seen it twice happen, so there's going to be more. No, there isn't. That's it. There's 2. That's it. Game over, buddy. You've seen the rest. It's like, I wanted to see an interaction between, I don't know, like Jacob and Thane or something like that. Like you kind of got the professional soldier versus the professional assassin, that kind of mercenary versus the kind of more nationalistic kind of person. It's like, that'd be an interesting conflict. It doesn't have to come to blows. Just have a conflict of whereby you've got 2 different ways of thinking. Like, don't get me wrong, the characters except for Jacob are fine.
Well, let's actually comment on Liam a bit, because every time, I'm just going through X Latalis's gameplay, and every time Liam comes up, I'm like, why are we talking to this guy? What does he add? Why is he here? Even from his description, if you didn't know anything about him, he's just a security guy. He's not a soldier. He's not a specialist. He's not a survivalist. He's just a guy with a gun. And I'm thinking, why are you on this? Like maybe you're better off at the Nexus, like keeping the peace there, because you can talk to people and get along. But everything else that he does, everything else he says, it's like this is just you don't need to be here, man. Like you're just not necessary to our mission at all.
Yeah, he's supposed to be like a kind of cop slash. Who are the guys who do the critical response to the major events in the world? I forgot what they're called now.
To the world, the UN?
No, they're a separate thing outside of the UN.
Not the peacekeeping force.
No. But like the kind of, let's say an earthquake happens and you get like these specialists. I thought he was going to be like that. Because when you say critical response, I thought shit's hit the fan. Something's gone really wrong in this colony. I can help solve this problem. I can, triage and gather people around and put them in a safe place. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, that would be like FEMA in United States.
The one. Yeah. Yes, that's the one I'm thinking of. I know that's the United States, but there's an international one that they do. And I was thinking like, okay, you got this guy, but it's like you got this guy of a cop, and what does he go and do? He goes and like starts shooting things randomly. It's like you're really not selling the whole cop mentality thing to me here, buddy. I'm just going to start blitzing things here, but it's like he's critical and crisis responding. What's his first solution exactly? Shoot things. Surely wouldn't it be like, okay, you got casualties, and but that's another thing as well. Actually, in the cinematic trailer. Sorry for the segue here. But in the cinematic trailer, when you see that person, when you see the ground being lifted up, where you see the person being held, and it turns out it's basically the pilot and the doctor eventually, those two people don't actually have hair on them. They're actually bald. So they didn't actually implement their hair in the thing, right? But a lot of people, once again, this goes into the assumption of, I thought that was your character helping like Gian Garson or something. A lot of people are actually assuming that as well. But that's what I mean by the manipulation of the marketing and how you get fooled into that is just like, that's why I ended up just not buying it fully in the end. It's just like, no, I can't deal with this anymore. I've been burnt too many times.
Well, now that I just found out last week that the first 10 hours of Mass Effect Andromeda are free again. So yes. you can download them and it's also got cut down in price last month as well. So what is it, $40? I don't even know anymore.
It's only in selective areas, though, isn't it? It's not changed price in the UK, though.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's only in places where it's going to be selling the most.
Yeah, I don't care. So I'm like, okay, I read all my reports. It's like, yeah, it's gone down in price for sure. That'll sell it. Yeah, that's a great idea.
I love all the bio drones who are kind of saying that, what's going to be in the quarry. They're still going on about the quarry and DLC and things like that. It's like, it's over.
Yeah.
There's no more team left. The only people left there are just there for the multiplayer and maybe a couple of bug fixes here and there. It's over. The production shut down now. There's going to be nothing more. Those people have moved on.
It is possible, though. It is possible that bringing Casey back, he could change that. He could actually say, you know what? The game is fairly new. It's been released. Traditionally, we release DLC. He might be able to shift that around, but you're talking like months, if not a year, before that gets implemented. It would have to be a fairly substantial block of storytelling and assets to do that. So
yeah, you have to get all the actors, actress and actresses as well, wouldn't you? Which would be quite a pretty penny. Because didn't they also say like Mass Effect Andromeda has like the largest number of voice actors in it?
Good God.
That's what I mean when I was kind of thinking about it all. It's like I wanted this idea of isolation, like you being trapped on your own with only a few people. So it's not just, hi, Liara, investigate, burn out all the choices or whatever. It's like, no, you're going to actually go into a lot more in depth of these characters. You're going to have the initial kind of bumping in work colleagues. And then as time goes on, as you get more and more fatigued and knackered as the story progresses, then your true elements, your true colors start to show, or their true colors start to show more and more. The professionalism starts to break down just through the constant wear and tear of their environment that they're constantly operating under, which is kind of what I was hoping that Mass Effect 2 would form into, but didn't kind of do that. It's just like, yeah, you found my sister now. I'm ding dong diddly fine. I was fine making, I can remake a man who came in from atmospheric entry, but my sister, on the other hand, going on a mission, no, I can't do that.
Yeah, too difficult. Yep.
That's beyond me now. Yeah.
All right.
So
I think we've been talking for a good 2 hours now. We appreciate everyone hanging out and listening to us ramble. We tend to do that a lot. Not lately. We've been having good lives and studying and working and all those wonderful things we do in life. So thanks, guys, for attending. We appreciate all the attention you've given us. And next time we'll try and get some of your questions in the chat. But that was fun.
Sorry, were they asking questions? Or didn't?
They do. I know they have lots of interesting.
Sorry, actually, I'm being a dickhead about this one.
Actually, I listen too often. It's hard for me to focus on more than one thing because I got you telling me ideas. And the first part of your story synopsis was actually rather interesting because you actually thought it through. I'm like, oh wow, this is. I mean, the premise itself is kind of. The original premise is kind of bad, so it can only go up from there, right? So it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's great. And all the details.
We've gone from bad to mediocre, guys. We're in it.
Yeah, he's okay. Yeah, it's all right. Yeah.
Default.
Passing grade, yeah.
It's like you said that, even a 5-year-old could fix this up. Right, sign me up, lads. I'm in a job.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks, guys, for listening. I appreciate it, and I'll get my my latest video out either today or this week sometime.
I apologize in advance.